A kick streamer is facing 20 years in a South Korean prison after filming himself harassing women, trashing businesses, and disrespecting war monuments.
My guess is police have been looking for an excuse to bring him down for a long time. And finally, he did something.
Johnny Somali, the name alone once synonymous with online provocation, is now tangled in whispers that stretch far beyond his usual scandals. What started as noisy live streams and offensive stunts has warped into something terrifying. Talk of the ultimate punishment. This isn't just internet chatter anymore. Court petitions, sealed hearings, and the looming August trial date in Seoul have all fed the rumor mill. And as the days tick down, the question gripping both his fans and his critics is chilling. Could this reckless internet performer actually face the most severe fate a court can hand down? We've seen nuisance streamers get deported, banned, fined, or even punched on camera, but no one imagined the prankster lifestyle might spiral toward a sentence this final.
Okay, so we just got out of Johnny Somali's third court day here in the beautiful yet rainy Seoul, South Korea. And it's safe to say, last time things went terrible for him, today things went awful. And honestly, kind of embarrassing because a lot of the stuff they did not make sense whatsoever. Clearly, he was way more locked in. He realized how much he screwed up now it seems like, and he's realizing, uh-oh, I might be stuck in prison for a long time.
At first glance, the charges don't scream life or fatal outcomes. Obstruction of business, disorderly antics, nuisance crimes. These are the kinds of accusations that usually end in fines or short stints behind bars. But then the tone shifted. A victim petition demanded maximum punishment, citing his lack of remorse and the absence of reconciliation. Prosecutors began stacking investigations on top of one another. Harassment around children, alleged deepfake creations, even spreading sensitive propaganda. Suddenly, that 6-month slap on the wrist ballooned into talk of 4, 8, 10 years. And then came the chilling whispers. If prosecutors prove the darker allegations, if they manage to connect Somali to something beyond mere mischief, South Korea could press for a sentence that few believed possible when this saga began. The gossip took on a life of its own, filling forums and headlines alike. Could a man who once bragged about being untouchable as an American citizen be staring down something no influencer has ever faced? Behind closed doors, we're told there may be even more at play. Enter the so-called secret extradition deal between the US and South Korea. It's the kind of rumor that belongs in a political thriller, but insiders insist conversations have been happening. According to those who claim to have seen draft language, officials from Washington have quietly signaled interest in bringing Somali back to American soil, not to protect him, but to make an example of him. Imagine that for a moment. For months, Somali strutted through Seoul wearing his red MAGA hat, flaunting his nationality like an invisible shield. He declared in streams that no Korean court could keep him locked up because the United States would always intervene. But what if that shield was never real? What if the very government he invoked is sharpening the blade instead? Is Johnny Somali unknowingly walking into a trap? A high-stakes chess move that would see him dragged home only to face an even harsher reckoning? The speculation alone has electrified his already infamous case.
Ramzi Khalid Ismail has been hit with a new criminal charge. That's right, as of 2 days ago, on the 25th of July of 2025, we have a new criminal charge for Johnny Somali, aka Ramzi Khalid Ismail.
Part of why this theory has gained traction is timing. Prosecutors in Seoul have proven relentless, but they aren't blind to diplomatic optics. Johnny isn't just any nuisance foreigner. He's a walking provocation who mocked war memorials, blasted propaganda in public spaces, and turned sacred cultural sites into punchlines. South Korean parliament members have already debated his antics on the floor. His name has become shorthand for a new kind of internet menace. If Seoul wants to show strength, and Washington wants to prove it won't shield its own citizens from consequences abroad, then a joint arrangement suddenly doesn't sound so far-fetched. The gossip swirling in embassy corridors is that an extradition tied to a harsher sentence could satisfy both governments. He wouldn't be the first American made into an example overseas. But would he be the first to find himself transferred back only to face an even grimmer prospect than he left behind? That's the twist fueling endless speculation. The idea alone rattles Somali's loyalists, who can't reconcile it with his on-camera bravado. They remember him sneering at arresting officers, drunk streaming the night before court, or swaggering into hearings late, hat tilted defiantly. They remember him taunting, "I'm an American, they can't touch me." Yet the louder those clips circulate, the more they look like foreshadowing of a man too arrogant to see what was coming. A Bangkok-based lawyer known online as Legal Mindset even claimed to have spoken to sources inside the State Department, bluntly stating, "The cavalry isn't coming." That revelation alone hit Somali's followers like cold water. For once, the possibility seemed real. Maybe the United States wouldn't shield him. Maybe the red hat is just a prop and he's standing alone on the stage.
So today, at least he was very serious. So, currently he's facing 8 counts, or 8 charges, and 4 of which are obstruction of businesses, 2 of which are misdemeanors. He pled guilty to all 6 of those charges. Then you have the 2 big charges, which are the deepfakes charges, and the deepfake charges are for distributing the deepfakes.
As if that weren't enough, a darker conspiracy has bubbled up from the digital underground, tying Somali to something far more sinister than convenience store tantrums. According to whistleblowers on fringe forums, the streamer has been linked to a deep fake network operating through the shadows of the internet. These whispers allege he wasn't just joking with offensive filters or silly edits. They claim he was helping to generate explicit AI content featuring South Korean influencers, clips sold or traded in private groups. Prosecutors haven't confirmed it, but the accusation alone explains the ferocity with which they're pursuing him. Think about it. Why would a nation's justice system go to war over nuisance antics? Why would members of parliament invoke his name during sessions? The deepfake theory answers that question with chilling clarity. If true, Somali isn't just a clownish provocateur. He's an architect of exploitation hiding behind the mask of comedy.
This is called merging in a charge. It is atypical for this to happen once, but it is completely unprecedented from the people I've talked to, lawyers, others in this process, to see this many merged into the case, which really means they are hitting him and with needles and needles and needles procedurally.
The overlap between his public stunts and this alleged hidden business fuels the suspicion. He's already charged with producing one AI-generated video of a female streamer, a case that could bring 10 years in prison by itself. His gleeful defiance, the way he dances around sacred statues or taunts commuters, could have been nothing more than a smokescreen for darker operations happening off camera. And prosecutors may be playing a longer game, stacking minor charges to hold him in place while they trace the bigger ones. For a man who built his brand on being loud and obvious, it would be ironic if the real reason for his downfall was something no one could see until too late. Could this be the true engine behind the whispers of ultimate punishment? That what looks like clownish behavior is masking an underworld connection serious enough to justify the harshest penalty.
And that extends the whole trial process by easily 2 to 3 months. So if he just pleaded guilty to that, things would be over pretty quickly. He would get his sentence and he would at least know what his fate is. But now they're deciding to extend the process for no real upside, and by him not pleading guilty, that just makes the sentence even harsher on him.
The rumor only deepens when we consider how often Somali flaunted AI tools in his streams. He toyed with voice changers, filters, synthetic messages that blurred the line between joke and cruelty. Fans laughed at the spectacle. Critics saw something more sinister. And then came that now infamous moment in Latte World, where text-to-speech messages involving children played aloud during his broadcast. Was it simply another shocking stunt? Or was it evidence that his channel was part of a larger content pipeline designed to humiliate, exploit, and profit? This is what keeps prosecutors digging, what keeps online investigators linking threads across forums. If even a fraction of the dark web chatter is real, the stakes leap from nuisance to nightmare. And so the whispers of the ultimate penalty stop sounding like wild fantasy and start feeling like the logical end of a story gone horribly wrong. For months, Johnny Somali mocked entire nations, brushing off fines, arrests, even assaults from angry locals. He built his identity on being untouchable. But as these rumors swirl of secret deals between governments, of underground networks, of crimes too serious to joke about, the question hangs heavy. Is this saga no longer about a reckless live streamer at all, but about something far darker taking shape behind the camera?
So this turd, his name is Johnny Somali. Well, that's not his actual name. His real name is Ramsey.
Johnny Somali didn't just stumble into controversy. He engineered it by targeting cultures least prepared to deal with his brand of chaos. In the United States, one wrong move against the wrong stranger could have ended his antics before they ever gained traction. But in East Asia, where politeness and social harmony are not just values but deeply ingrained expectations, Somali found fertile ground. Every loud insult, every staged disruption, every smirk as he pushed against unspoken boundaries wasn't just content, it was weaponized cultural difference. Japan and South Korea weren't just backdrops for his live streams. They were carefully chosen stages where restraint and hospitality became weaknesses for him to exploit. Was this strategy accidental, or did he knowingly build a career by exploiting the tolerance of societies too polite to strike back until the damage was already done? The pattern tells a story of calculation. In Japan, Somali mocked commuters with chilling references to the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He blared tsunami alarms in public places, barged into construction zones, and filmed it all with glee. The result? Jail time, a fine in the thousands of yen, and eventual deportation. But even that wasn't enough to shake his confidence. Instead of retreating, he shifted to South Korea. doubling down on provocation. He taunted the elderly, disrupted subways, poured noodles across store counters, and blasted propaganda that is literally outlawed under the nation's National Security Act. For viewers online, it was a circus. For the locals enduring it in real time, it was humiliation. And this is why his case now resonates so deeply. It is not just about law breaking, but about a man making entertainment out of desecrating cultural norms.
Anyway, Johnny Somali was arrested partially for his own safety because after days of him streaming himself being incredibly rude and disruptive in South Korea, there were literally hundreds of Asian people on the street all hunting down a black guy to sucker punch.
Nothing embodies that better than the Comfort Women scandal, the moment Johnny Somali crossed a line from spectacle into something far more poisonous. These statues, scattered across Korea, stand as sacred memorials to women who suffered under Japanese occupation. For many Koreans, they are symbols of dignity, remembrance, and intergenerational grief. When Somali kissed them, danced shirtless beside them, rubbed baby oil on his skin in front of them, he wasn't just clowning around for clicks. He was desecrating one of the most sensitive symbols in the nation. The fallout was instant. Parliament members discussed his antics publicly, content creators put bounties on his whereabouts, strangers hunted him down, attacking him during live streams while his own audience egged it on in the comments. This wasn't a prank gone wrong, it was cultural blasphemy, broadcast in real time. Even when Somali attempted damage control, the damage was irreparable. A video surfaced of him bowing at another Comfort Women statue, apologizing, and insisting he didn't understand the monument's significance. He blamed cultural differences, even suggesting his actions were just comedy for Americans who do not know much about the statue. But apologies mean little when paired with smirking selfies and captions mocking the very people he offended. He left the incriminating posts on social media, even bragging about defeating Koreans for Japanese politicians. The doublespeak stripped away any illusion of ignorance. The public saw his apology not as remorse, but as manipulation, an attempt to smooth over outrage while continuing to feed his brand. Was this apology ever sincere, or was it just another performance?
Johnny Somali is frequently getting arrested in foreign countries for his on-stream behavior, but they always let him go. With the amount of sentences this guy's avoided, you'd think he's autistic.
Johnny's performance extended beyond statues and stunts, right down to the hat on his head. That bright red MAGA cap, worn in court and across countless live streams, has become more than a prop. It is his banner, his statement, and perhaps his last card to play. In a South Korean courtroom, the choice looked defiant, even mocking, but in the wider political theater, it was a calculated gesture meant to tie his fate to something larger than himself. The cap wasn't only for style, it was a message beamed straight back to America, where political polarization runs deep and symbols carry as much weight as words. Why does he cling to it so tightly? For some observers, the answer lies in desperation. Johnny knows the global press loves a political flashpoint, and few objects ignite stronger reactions than that red hat. By wearing it, he transforms his trial from a local scandal into an international spectacle. He isn't just another nuisance streamer causing chaos abroad. Suddenly, he becomes the American citizen who proudly parades his patriotism under foreign scrutiny. It's a shift that plays well with certain audiences online, fueling sympathy where he might otherwise have faced only ridicule. Yet the gambit is risky. In South Korea, the symbolism means nothing. In fact, it makes him look even more arrogant, waving foreign politics like a shield against justice. To prosecutors, it reeks of manipulation, an attempt to intimidate by suggesting he has powerful backing at home. The courtroom becomes not only a space of law, but a stage where Somali broadcasts his supposed connection to political muscle thousands of miles away. The effect may win him clicks, but it also deepens the resentment of those tasked with judging him.
Although Johnny is incredibly good at getting out of things. For example, somehow he was able to leave Israel a free man after he was arrested for harassing a military police officer.
There's also the question of whether anyone in Washington is paying attention. Somali may imagine that draping himself in Americana forces the US government to act, but behind the scenes, lawyers and analysts suggest the opposite. By weaponizing the hat, he risks turning his case into a political football no one wants to touch. No administration is eager to defend a man accused of mocking war memorials, harassing strangers, or dabbling in illicit AI schemes. In fact, the spectacle could backfire spectacularly, making it easier for officials to distance themselves and say, "This man doesn't represent us." Still, the ploy works with one key audience, his fans. The MAGA branding gives them a script to follow, painting Somali not as a reckless provocateur, but as a persecuted outsider battling foreign systems. Online, this framing creates endless debates, drawing in viewers who might never have cared about nuisance streaming. Some cheer him as a victim of censorship and foreign overreach. Others condemn him as a manipulator playing with national symbols. Either way, the hat keeps the spotlight firmly on him.
So he was living in Japan for a while, and one night he gets drunk and he live streams himself putting on a fake Asian accent, and he starts saying racist things on the subway.
Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we destroy it because you don't know how to behave. You know Hiroshima and Nagasaki? We're gonna do it again.
And that may be the true purpose of the Trump hat gambit. Not to save him, but to ensure he never fades into irrelevance. For a man who thrives on being watched, even scorn is a form of survival. By wrapping his image in one of America's most divisive symbols, he guarantees that his case will be talked about not just in Seoul, but in Washington, in New York, and across every platform hungry for political drama. The only question left is whether the hat will serve as his shield or the rope that finally tightens around him. Prosecutors certainly seem to have drawn their conclusion. While Somali faces multiple charges tied to obstruction, nuisance, and alleged AI videos, the weight of cultural fury cannot be underestimated. When a man becomes a lightning rod for national outrage, courts don't just sentence him as an individual, they make him an example. Legal analysts have said it openly. Seoul must stand firm, or risk emboldening a wave of nuisance streamers from abroad. If Somali walks away unscathed, others will follow in his footsteps, turning cultural landmarks into props for cheap entertainment. That is why some believe his harshest punishments are not simply about the charges, but about the fury he ignited by mocking the comfort women statues. It was the final straw, the act that ensured the system would throw the book at him with no hesitation.
In fact, we can see this thing go as quickly as going into, let's say, October, November, maybe it could end, or it could go into 2026. It's very, very possible that can happen at this point. It really all depends on how this plays out and also on how Johnny pleads.
The irony is that Somali's downfall may reshape the digital landscape he once dominated. His story is now a cautionary tale reverberating far beyond Seoul. Nuisance streamers across Asia are watching closely, calculating whether the clicks are worth the risk of becoming the next Johnny Somali. Governments are drafting bills, lawmakers are vowing crackdowns, and even streaming platforms are retreating from personalities once celebrated for their chaos. Somali wanted to be the biggest name in shock content. He may end up being remembered as the man whose antics triggered the end of an era. Johnny Somali thought he could game the system. He thought American citizenship was a shield, thought outrage was just another form of engagement, thought every scandal could be spun into content. But now the system is closing in on him from all sides, whether it's the possibility of the ultimate penalty in South Korea or a harsher reckoning awaiting him in the US. One thing is clear, his saga is far from over. But here's the question we leave to you. Will Johnny Somali's downfall finally slam the brakes on the nuisance streamer phenomenon? Or are we witnessing the beginning of something even darker on the horizon? Drop your thoughts below, and until next time, stay sharp and stay watching, because the story isn't done with us yet.